Hello guys, and welcome to another video. This video is going to be about base bombing. From World War II strike planes to modern supersonics, I'll be explaining how to best bomb bases and how to choose the right payload. I'll also mention that every plane shown in this video is a good base bomber in and of itself. Either it is that plane that's shown, or the plane that's shown has a premium version that can. I've been away with the flu for a little while, which kind of destroyed my throat. You might still be able to hear it a bit, but I'm back now and well again, so the videos are returning. So don't forget to smash that like and subscribe. The Discord is linked down below, and we'll get into the video. So before I get into specific tactics, we'll kind of go over how to choose your bomb load and how to know if the base will be destroyed. And whether or not the base will be destroyed is actually quite simple. Each base has a specific HP pool, and this is going to be displayed on the screen now. And this information, as well as significantly more, will be found in the amazing spreadsheet linked in the description below. Now, for certain BR ranges, it is going to be really important what the BR of your match is. If that happens, just check the scoreboard and hover over the aircraft of players on your team, and it will tell you what their battle rating is. And you can use that to figure out what the battle rating of the match is. So, now that we know how the HP system works, how do we actually choose a payload? Well, we have this stat to show us exactly how much of a base's HP will be destroyed, and that's for the whole payload. After that, it's just simply maths. But really, it depends on how likely it is that you think you'll be able to get more bases due to the multiplier. Because obviously, if you take more bombs, your multiplier goes down. So the most consistent method is to only take enough bombs for one base. You'll get the best multiplier, and it's fairly likely that you will be able to get one base as well. However, if you notice not a lot of people are bombing in your matches, and you think you'll be able to consistently make 2 or even more bases, it will always be profitable to do this, provided you actually do get those bases. For example, if you have a 10 times multiplier for a 1 base payload and a 6 times multiplier for a 2 base payload, you'll get 20% more by bombing 2 bases. For example, imagine a base gives 1 score. If you have a 10 times multiplier, you'll get 10 score. If you have a 6 times multiplier, you get 6 score per base. Twice, which is 12. That's 20% more. That means every 5th game that you play, you'll get the equivalent bonus of 1 entire extra game in which you only bomb 1 base. Although, on the other side of the coin, this means that if you only bomb 1 base on one of your runs with the 2 base loadout, you lose the equivalent of 3 games of profit. So take this into account and make your own decision based on the multipliers you see for your aircraft and, well, how greedy you are. Now we'll talk more about the actual methods you will use in-game, and I'm going to split this into 2 major categories, the first of which are going to be planes without a ballistic computer that are subsonic and have an air spawn. And this will include quite a number of early jets as well. The first subcategory of which is going to be strike planes. Now, in pretty much every strike plane, you're going to want to dive and get onto target as fast as humanly possible. The main reason for this is that you just don't have a bomb sight, so if you want to drop your payload with any kind of accuracy, you will need to be fairly low to the ground. Also, the strike air spawn isn't as high up as a bomber spawn either, so you don't really have the luxury necessarily of using your altitude. Just remember to set your bomb fuse long enough for you to be clear of the blast radius, because obviously you'll be quite close to the ground. And then the big question really is what to do after you release the bombs. And really there are two main answers to that question. The first is to just play very aggressively, go for head-on engagements, try and get that extra score, maybe pick up 1 or 2 kills, because there will usually be fighters diving down on you by the time you've dropped your payload. The other, especially if you're unnoticed, is to try and go for the AI ground targets. But remember, whichever option you choose, your lifespan is most likely going to be rather limited. This isn't necessarily a bad thing though, because if you dive straight onto a target, bomb it, go for a head-on, okay, even if you don't get a kill, it still lets you get into your next game very quickly, and you can rinse and repeat and grind out RP pretty quickly with this method, with the added bonus of being able to pick up a few extra kills along the way. The next subcategory is one I'm going to call fast bombers, and it's loosely based on the German Schnellbomber concept from World War II. These are bombers that, after a shallow dive, can achieve a straight line top speed of no less than 450 kilometers an hour, or 280 miles per hour, preferably though faster. These planes will usually have 2 engines and some level of agility or dive bombing capability. Good examples are the German Ju-288C and the Soviet Tu-2S. And the first option is to just play these like a strike plane, and you will see a lot of people doing this, diving straight down towards the target with your wings rattling away as you hold your rip speed to get there as fast as possible. If you do this, you're almost guaranteed to secure that base. But after you've dropped your bombs, you're almost guaranteed a quick end from the fighters that will inevitably be diving on top of you. What I prefer to do is to enter a shallow dive to gain speed when I spawn in, and then hold my altitude and fly quickly to the target. Doing this makes it very difficult for enemy fighters that are climbing out to intercept you, just because of how fast you're going. Most fighters that are climbing out are going to be doing half your speed, and good players don't want to waste energy chasing around bombers that they might not even catch. And honestly, if you do drag people down to fight you, to chase you, and do other silly things, you're actually doing your team a benefit there. But I do say to maintain your altitude, and you have the luxury of doing this in a bomber because you have something that strike planes don't. A bomb site. Use this to your advantage and don't just throw your life away for nothing. Maintain your altitude, use your bomb site, and then RTB. You can even get a second run in usually, especially with a plane like the Ju-288. And lastly, for subsonic aircraft, we have strategic bombers, usually with 4 engines and a poor top speed. I won't go into a huge amount of detail because I did an entire video on how to play strategic bombers, which is going to be appearing in the top right at the moment. The short version, though, is that you should climb and stay away from enemy fighters. If anybody starts getting too close, turn away, show them your tail, and fire small harassing bursts to keep them on their toes. If you want to actually fight back though, make sure your bomber has at least one 20mm cannon. And now we're moving on to our next major category, which completely changes the way base bombing works. Supersonic aircraft with a ballistics computer and no air spawn. I was gonna say this is where the philosophy changes to be about speed, but honestly, that's always been the case at every battle rating. The difference here is that everybody's on an even playing field, including fighters, and the demand for bases absolutely goes through the roof. So the only criteria that actually matters is speed. Whoever gets there first is going to take the base. So the best way to do this is with incendiary bombs, because they're very light for the amount of base that they destroy. This is going to give you better acceleration, and you'll also want to reduce your fuel load to only carry what's strictly necessary. This is going to be true regardless of what you're doing in a jet, but it's especially true when you're base bombing. All in all though, base bombing at supersonic battle ratings is absolutely dominated by Soviet planes, and when they're in the various tech trees, such as the MiG-23, which is like in the German and the Soviet tree, the MiG-29, which can be found in a few trees at this point, but usually it's going to be MiGs, MiG-21, MiG-23, MiG-29. They all have great acceleration and top speed for their battle ratings, and they carry a pair of incendiary bombs which perfectly destroy a base. And honestly, it's quite difficult for other planes to compete, so really, whatever you take, you're just praying that there's one or two bases left for you to pick up after all the MiGs are done with them. The absolute worst BR range for this is around the MiG-23 ML Soviet Premium. So bear in mind, if you're sort of 10-7 to 12-3, this is going to be almost every game because there are so many of them. The other option that becomes available at the top battle ratings is glide bombing. This is something I've brought up extensively in both my F-15 and Su-34 videos, so I won't go into too much detail because there's basically a full guide on how to do this for both NATO and Soviet weapons respectively in each video. The short version is, though, that if you're going at roughly Mach 0.9 or higher after you spawn in and you begin to pass through 20,000 feet or 6 kilometers, you can safely release pretty much any munition using CCRP so that your bombs will land on the target on pretty much every except for the largest of maps. There's also not as much competition at these battle ratings, but there are also no good premiums to do this with, so, it cuts both ways. Well, maybe you could do it with the premium F2 in the Japanese tree, but I really wouldn't recommend playing that plane at all, and let alone buying it to bomb bases with. It's a terrible idea, but if you have that plane, it is an option. So that's all for today, guys. Thank you for coming. If you enjoyed, don't forget to smash like and subscribe. Also, the Discord and the spreadsheet are linked down below, and I'll see you in the next one.